Once you've done a motion tween, you can modify it in various ways. The first thing you can do, if you had created this animation, it's 1 second, and you wanted it longer, let's say you wanted it to play for 2 seconds, which also means that your animation will play slower, you can hover on your timeline where the tween ends, right at the end of the selection here. Notice that your cursor changes. You can stretch that to, let's say, 58. Well, that's over 2 seconds. That's 2.4 seconds. But notice that it's added all the frames, the extra frames that you are creating, and your animation is now going to play somewhat slower. You can also make it shorter, which means that it'll go a lot faster. What you can also do is you can move this old tween somewhere else on the timeline. So let's say you didn't want it to start at at the beginning of your project. You wanted this animation to start later. You could just grab this whole section here and move it somewhere else on the timeline, which means that you won't have anything started straight away. It will start later. And finally, what you can also do, if I undo that, Command Z, you can also duplicate an animation once you've created it. So you can select it, press Alt on the keyboard, Alt and click, and it means that, notice that you get a little plus underneath your cursor, underneath your arrow, and you can just paste it later on in the timeline as well. The next thing you can do is you can bend this path here. So instead of going straight, you could have a curve. Yeah. And if you were to add a keyframe, let's say somewhere in the middle, if I press F6, then my path will be divided in two, which means that I can bend this side of the path and then that side in another direction.